The woods can be exciting with their mysteries, but the same woods can house some of the strangest secrets ever. Some of them can be pretty harmless, like a guy living in an airplane home, but others can be quite scary, like a cursed area that might lead to the worst consequences you could imagine. So let's get into 20 of the strangest things that were found in the woods. Number 20. Missing persons posters. A video from New York showing a deeply disturbing discovery in the woods went viral. This happened after James Rankin went out hiking on Long Island and stumbled upon what he described as a shrine of missing persons posters deep in the woods of Berkeley-Jackson County Park. In the video he posted on Facebook, you can see over 24 missing persons posters hanging in the trees near some private properties. All the people on the posters were real people who had gone missing across the US, including Jennifer Kessie, who vanished back in 2006. Apart from all of this, James also found a makeshift campsite, complete with a big tent, bedding, opened food cans, a shovel, and even a wooden cage surrounding a filled-in hole. James reached out to the cops about his findings, and they agreed that all of this was pretty weird. While the homeowner and the neighbors tried to brush it off as Halloween decor, people could tell that the posters looked way older than Halloween that year. To this day, it hasn't been figured out who was responsible. Number 19. A medieval ring. In December 2016, there was an incredible discovery in Sherwood Forest, Nottinghamshire, the place that's always been for Robin Hood and all that folklore. Here's what went down. A guy named Mark Thompson, who usually sprays paint on forklift trucks for a living, decided to try his hand at treasure hunting. Within just 20 minutes of poking around in the forest, his metal detector went off. Now Mark wasn't expecting much, but as he started to dig, he spotted something shiny. He saw a glimmer of gold peeking through the dirt, and when he cleared away the soil, he found a stunning medieval ring, possibly dating back to the 14th century. The ring had the most intricate designs and even a precious sapphire embedded in it. Mark's mind was blown, and he called up his friend to share the news and make sure there wasn't more treasure lying around. Experts claimed that this ring could be worth anywhere from £20,000 to as much as £70,000. They put the ring through all kinds of tests at the British Museum to confirm its age and authenticity, after which it was officially classified as treasure. Mark was set to get 50% of the share, as the other 50% would go to the landowner. Number 18. The Elda Castle. This is David Abercrombie's castle in Ossining, New York, built all the way back in 1925. Construction on Elda was finished in just 2 years, and Abercrombie and his wife poured their hearts into it. They used local materials like granite and stone from the property itself to bring their vision to life. But sadly, tragedy struck them pretty soon. Lucy, one of Abercrombie's daughters, died in a factory fire in 1929, just 2 years after the castle was finished. And then, in 1937, Abercrombie's son, also named David, passed away after a horse kicked him in Wyoming. After Abercrombie's own death from rheumatic fever in 1937, his wife moved to New Jersey to live with their daughter Elizabeth. Elda was sold off in the 40s, and things took a turn for the worse. Over the years, Elda fell into disrepair. It became a target for vandals and suffered from fires and paint spills. Despite several attempts to restore it, dating back to 1964, the castle remains abandoned and in ruins today. Several people suspect that the castle has fallen victim to suspicious acts unfolding in the dark basement, but these rumors have not been confirmed. Number 17. Loads of pasta. In May 2023, people in Old Bridge, New Jersey stumbled upon a lot of cooked pasta noodles scattered along a creek bed in the woods. Turns out the pasta pileup wasn't a prank or an alien invasion aftermath. In fact, it was actually the result of a cleanup job gone wrong. See, there was a house nearby that had been put up for sale after the owner passed away. The son was clearing out the place and came across a ton of expired groceries, including bags of old pasta. Instead of tossing it in the trash like most people would, he decided to dump it in the woods. And thanks to some heavy rain over the weekend, the noodles got soaked and ended up looking like they'd been cooked right then and there. A community leader named Nina Joknowitz snapped some pictures of the pasta pileup and posted them on Facebook. The images went viral, sparking all sorts of hilarious theories online. In the end, it was just a case of a guy trying to clean the house and taking a shortcut that ended up making a pasta spectacle. Luckily, the town's public works department stepped in and cleared out the mess before things got too out of hand. Number 16. The Devil's Tramping Ground. You'll find this spot in a perfect circle, 40 feet wide and right in the middle of nowhere. It's located about 10 miles from Siler City in Chatham County, North Carolina. And once you get into the details, things get very spooky. Legend has it that Satan himself takes his nightly strolls in this circle, contemplating all his wicked deeds. Now, the circle is surrounded by normal plants and trees, but inside, there's this wiry grass that won't grow anywhere else. It's like the ground is cursed in some way. Locals have tried moving this grass, but it just doesn't work. Plus, if you try leaving anything in the circle overnight, like sticks or rocks, they mysteriously vanish by morning. However, that's not all. People have come up with all sorts of theories about this eerie place. Some say it was a sacred spot for Native American tribes, where they held their rituals and dances. Others connect it to the lost colony of Roanoke Island, suggesting it's the burial site of a tribal chief named Croatan. Legend has it that the word Croatoan, carved on a nearby tree, refers to this place. Is there a more scientific explanation, though? Well, some think it was created by horses walking in circles around an old molasses mill, but that theory doesn't hold up under scrutiny. The most convincing explanation so far comes from soil studies. Turns out the soil in the circle is super salty, and they even found traces of old salt licks nearby. This could explain why the grass that grows there won't grow anywhere else. Number 15. A World War II tank. In the rarest of rare events, a bulldozer pulled a Soviet-built tank out of a lake near Jovi, Estonia, after it had been sitting there for 56 whole years. Back in 1944, during some intense battles in Estonia, this tank was taken from the Soviet army by the Germans. That's why you'll see German markings painted on its exterior. Decades later, in 2000, a local kid named Kurtna Matazjarv noticed some tank tracks leading into the lake, but not coming back out. For months, he saw air bubbles popping up, hinting that something big was down there. After some diving expeditions, the people of the area found the tank under 3 meters of peat, about 7 meters deep in the lake. This tank wasn't just any old relic. In fact, it was a trophy tank captured by the Germans during a battle about 6 weeks before it sank. The most shocking thing about the discovery was that the tank was in surprisingly good shape, with no rust, and most of its systems still working. Number 14. The Toronto Bunker. In January 2015, an underground bunker was discovered near one of the Pan Am Games spots in Toronto. Apparently, a worker from the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority stumbled upon the bunker accidentally, and it's not even in plain sight. The bunker was tucked away in the woods, hidden under a trapdoor and covered by dirt not too far from York University and the Rexall Center. Now here's the thing. It's not just any old bunker. This thing was 2.5 meters tall and 7 meters long. You could walk through it without crouching, and it even had reinforced walls and ceilings. As if that wasn't enough, the bunker had lights, tools, and even a generator inside. Who could build something like that in secret? Authorities speculated that it must have taken ages to put together, maybe even months. Even though the cops checked out the area's surveillance footage and talked to the locals, they were still left scratching their heads about why it was there in the first place. But everyone was sure about one thing. The bunker wasn't made for anything shady. The Pan Am Games security people confirmed that there were no direct threats in the area, and the police were still trying to figure out what it was for. In the end, it was confirmed that the bunker was made by 2 men. Their identities were never revealed, but authorities reassured the public that there was nothing to worry about. Number 13. An airplane home. This is the story of Bruce Campbell and his airplane home in Hillsboro, Oregon. Campbell, who is a retired electrical engineer and aviation enthusiast, has been living on this plane for over 20 years. But how did he pull it off? Well, back in 1999, Campbell bought the plane for $100,000. It had been retired in Greece and had to be flown to Hillsboro Airport, where Campbell lives. Then, they had to remove the wings and tail to transport it through the streets to his property. Once the plane was in place, Campbell got to work making it livable. In total, Campbell spent about $220,000 on the project. Now, he only pays about $400 a month in property taxes and electricity. Plus, Campbell's not just living in the plane. He's turned it into a community space of sorts. In the summer, he hosts concerts and other events, and he even lets campers stay for free. He's got message boards filled with notes from past visitors, showing just how much people appreciate his hospitality. The plane itself was once owned by Aristotle Onassis, the Greek shipping magnate and husband of Jackie Kennedy Onassis. It was used to transport Aristotle's body to his funeral in 1975. To think that Campbell lives in the same plane is actually pretty wild. Number 12. The Free Spirit Spheres. These are actual tree houses that are nestled high up in the rainforests of Vancouver Island. There are only 3 spherical tree houses in the area, named Luna, Erin, and Melody. The tree houses are almost like luxury hotel rooms that have been suspended among the trees, and the entire thing offers a one-of-a-kind escape for nature lovers. The tree houses have been created with a lot of detail, and they blend seamlessly into the forest, giving guests an intimate connection with nature without sacrificing comfort. Despite their delicate appearance, these spheres are tough. Their spherical shape, kind of like a protective shell, helps them withstand the elements. And they're not just hanging by a thread. The intricate web of cables keeps them anchored securely to the trees while still allowing for gentle movement. No matter when you visit, you're in for a surprise. Whether it's snow-covered in winter, blooming with spring flowers, basking in summer sunshine, or ablaze with fall colors, every visit is a unique experience. Number 11. The Walking Trees. Ecuador's Sumaco Biosphere Reserve has the most fascinating thing you'll ever find. Once you're deep in the forest, you'll come across walking palm trees. But why are they even called walking trees? Well, they can actually move as their roots grow and find new solid ground, relocating them bit by bit, like ants, but slower. Some scientists debate it, but Peter Versansky, a paleobiologist, swears he's seen it happen. Versansky and Thierry Garcia, a conservationist, have been living in the forest, documenting its wonders. They've discovered hidden waterfalls and new species, and even had run-ins with monkeys. It's been a tough journey, and Versansky even lost 10 kilograms in a week, but the discoveries make it worth it. Many visitors say that these trees have a mysterious aura to them, reminding them of Tolkien's creations. Number 10. A Japanese ghost town. In 2004, Bob Muckle, an archaeologist dude from Capilano University, was wandering around the Seymour Valley in British Columbia. There, he stumbled upon a clearing in the forest, and at first, it didn't seem like much, just some rusty cans and moldy tree trunks. But then, things got interesting. As they started digging, they uncovered all sorts of things, including fancy china bowls, sake bottles, and ceramics. These were things you would never expect to find in the middle of the woods. Turns out it was a whole community of Japanese Canadians, about 50 or 60 of them, including women and kids, who called this place home for about 20 years. But where were they? Well, they were probably working for this Japanese-Canadian logger named Eikichi Kagetsu. And even though the logging gig dried up in the 20s, they stuck around, building their own little village deep in the forest. With racism against Japanese Canadians on the rise, being off the grid probably felt like a safe bet. However, looking at the things, it seemed like they left in a hurry. Usually when people leave a place, they take their stuff with them, right? Well, not these guys. They left behind things like a camera and a cook stove. Bob guessed that they might have been forced out, possibly in 1942, when the Canadian government started rounding up Japanese citizens and their descendants. Number 9. A mysterious staircase. Back in August 2015, a Reddit user who claimed to be a forest search and rescue officer shared some bizarre stories about his experiences on the job. Among them was this tale about stumbling upon random staircases deep in the forest. Now, there's a TikTok user named Jessie V, and she says that if you ever come across one of these random staircases in the woods, you have to hightail it out of there as fast as you can. Don't even think about climbing them, no matter how curious you are. According to her, there have been stories floating around for years about these abandoned staircases lurking in national forests all over the world. And the most concerning part of it all is that they're not connected to anything. They're just standalone staircases, some sturdy, some falling apart, and some even spiral like those you'd find in a lighthouse. Now, there are all sorts of theories about why these stairs are there and what happens if you dare to climb them. Some people think they lead to another dimension, while others believe they're a one-way ticket to hell. And then there are those who think they're the reason why people, especially kids, go missing in national forests. If you climb the stairs, you might vanish without a trace. Number 8. A Serbian dentist. In Tepice, Czech Republic, a mysterious figure with a backpack was usually seen striding through the streets. Turns out this man was a Serbian dentist and spoke flawless Czech. A curious named Peter wanted to find out what was up. So one night, he went into the dark depths of the forest to find Alexander's hideout. Basically, Alexander Piravatric had been lying low since 1999 in a rundown railway observation post, living without water, electricity, or even doors. He was always on the move during the day to avoid unwanted attention from soldiers. For survival, he would rely on whatever he could find to keep going. Plus, no one even knew he existed until some mail showed up at the Serbian embassy in Prague. It was later found out that Alexander landed in the Czech Republic when he was just 9, tagging along with his mom. He grew up, went to school, and even became a dentist. But life took a sharp turn when he got transferred to Teplice. Eventually, his mom passed away, and then he also lost his job. Since he wasn't a Czech citizen, he got the boot from his government-provided place, and that's when the real struggle began. Since then, Alexander has been surviving in the woods. Number 7. The Fire Snail. This is a super rare and sought-after species of snail found only in a tiny area on the Malaysian peninsula, and it's named after its vibrant red foot. The snail is scientifically called the Platyma tweedii, and was first spotted back in 1938 in Talim Valley, nestled in Malaysia's Cameron Highlands. Since then, it's been seen in a couple of other spots like Temangor and Kelantan, but nowhere else. According to a conservationist named Jun Kit Foot from University Malaysia Sabah, these fire snails can only be found in a 100-kilometer radius in the Cameron Highlands because they're super picky about their living conditions. Apparently, they love cool, misty environments, specifically the cloud forests high up in the hills. The most fascinating part of it all is that this is the biggest land snail you'll find in peninsular Malaysia, sporting a sleek black shell that can stretch up to 7 centimeters in diameter. However, what really makes it stand out is that striking red foot, which earns it the name fire snail. While there's a looming threat of the fire snail going extinct, you can still run into one if you know where to go. Number 6. A 4,000-year-old dagger. A metal detectorist uncovered a copper dagger that was dated back to 4,000 years, and it left the world dumbstruck. Named the Kordzenica dagger, this is the oldest metal dagger ever found in southeastern Poland. The only other similar dagger found in Poland dates back to the 60s, which is nothing compared to this. Even though they didn't find any other artifacts where the dagger was found, archaeologists were able to piece together the story. By comparing it to similar daggers found elsewhere in Central Europe and the Ukrainian forest steppe, they estimated that it was used sometime in the second half of the 3rd millennium BC. Whoever owned this dagger was probably a big warrior or someone super important, but it likely wasn't used for battle. Why? Because copper daggers are pretty soft, so they wouldn't hold up too well in a fight. Instead, they were more like status symbols, showing off someone's high social standing. Subscriber's pick. It's time for today's subscriber's pick. In March 2022, a woman finds tiny house in the woods and her mouth drops open at realization what's in it. Max was out in the Dandenong Ranges National Park in Australia with her friends, enjoying the weekend as they hiked for hours. At around 5 p.m. in the evening, they decided to do a quick stop, eat something, and rest a bit until they could head back home. Max rested her back against a large tree as she sat down to regain her energy, but she felt something digging into her lower back. As she turned around, she saw the tiniest door that was leading into the hollow bark of the tree. As she opened the door, what she found made literally no sense. There were miniature-sized sofas, tables, and even a little TV, but there was nothing else. No living thing was inside this little room in the tree, and to this day it has remained a mystery. Who made and put those furniture pieces inside the tree? Who even made the door and the room in the first place? The answers await. Remember to comment down below with the hashtag #subscriberpick and let us know what you think. Now on to the next topic. Number 5. A 5,000-year-old tree. The Methuselah is a Great Basin bristlecone pine tree that's been living in eastern California for nearly 5,000 years. To put it into perspective, this tree has been around since way before the pyramids were even a blueprint. Now, the exact spot where Methuselah stands tall has been a secret to shield it from any harm. But that doesn't reduce its legend. Methuselah and the Pinus longiva trees thrive in some of the most inhospitable terrain you can imagine. We're talking freezing temperatures, dry soil, and winds that could knock you off your feet. Yet, they're out there, defying the odds. These trees have a knack for finding sustenance in the most barren of soils, and their weather-beaten branches are like nature's armor, built to withstand the fiercest storms. However, there have been some developments recently. Methuselah might have some competition for the title of the oldest tree. Over in Chile, there's a Patagonian cypress called the Alerce millenario, or the Gran Abuelo, that's been getting the spotlight. Some people think it could be even older than Methuselah. It's not that easy to know because figuring out a tree's age isn't simple. For the Alert Millenario, they had to get creative, using a mix of partial ring counts and computer magic to estimate its age. But whether Methuselah is the oldest or the second oldest tree in the world, it is simply marvelous. Number 4. A preserved dog. Imagine that a hunting dog gets trapped inside a tree trunk and fights for its life against nature's cruelest grip. Could it ever win? Despite clawing and struggling for his life, this dog got stuck in the tree until he finally died in its grip. Astonishingly, the dog spent nearly 20 years stuck in that tree, hidden from everyone, including its owner. Then, in 1980, a logging crew stumbled upon the tree and found the dog's mummified remains. But here's the thing that will shock you. The dog's preservation wasn't just some random accident. It's all thanks to the tannins in the oak tree, which preserved his body like a natural mummy. Even his scent of decay was cleverly masked, so predators and insects couldn't touch him. Number 3. The world's largest fungus. The button mushrooms you love have a relative that is currently taking up over 2,000 acres of soil in Oregon's Blue Mountains, and it's something that has never been seen before. Back in 1998, scientists stumbled upon this mega fungus called Armillaria ostoii, and it blew their minds. This was a fungus that could wrap itself around 1,665 football fields, or almost 4 square miles of land. Aside from being huge, this fungus is also ancient, possibly being 2,400 years old, or maybe even over 8,000 years old. So how did they find this massive fungus? Well, a team of forestry scientists was out in eastern Oregon doing their thing when they stumbled upon this fungal giant. They were actually trying to map out the population of this particular fungus, known for causing armillaria root disease. The most interesting part of it all is that these giant fungi might just be the tip of the iceberg. There could be tons of them out there, just waiting to be discovered. Number 2. Little People's Village. The Fairy Village is a small village tucked away in Middlebury, Connecticut, and it's basically a collection of tiny houses in the woods that some people swear are haunted or cursed. The story goes back to the 20s, when a guy named William Joseph Lannon owned the land and built a gas station there. When his gas station tanked, he switched his strategy and started a nursery, growing trees and flowers. However, legend has it that Lannon's wife started seeing these little people, like fairies, roaming around the woods. She convinced Lannon to build them a village, and so he did. Some versions even claim an old man was tormented by these little creatures until he built them their own place. Now, there's this throne in the village, and people say it's cursed. Sit on it, and you're done for. But the real tragedy here is that people have vandalized the place, spray painting nasty things all over the tiny buildings. Plus, the possibility still looms that the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. Lannon probably built the village as part of his nursery business. It was his passion project, complete with miniature houses, churches, and even a lighthouse. Number 1. A UFO sighting. There was a UFO incident at Rendlesham Forest back in December 1980, and Colonel Charles Halt talked about it all. He claimed he saw some crazy unidentified objects flying around, and he even had statements from radar operators at RAF Bentwaters and nearby Wattisham Airfield backing him up. USAF security guys, John Burroughs and Jim Peniston, were the first to report seeing weird lights on December 26, 1980. Colonel Halt even recorded their whole search mission on a dictation device. According to him, he and his security team spotted these mysterious objects. Some of his former colleagues kept quiet about it until they retired, but now they've come forward with written statements. But here's the thing. The Ministry of Defense refused to touch this UFO stuff and claimed that they will no longer be involved. But Colonel Halt isn't backing down. He's got the radar readings, and according to him, those radar operators at Bentwaters tracked the object flying across their scope at lightning speed. Then it circled back, hovered near a water tower, and then dipped into the forest where they were. Now, there's more. Over at Wattisham, they spotted what they called a bogey on their screens, but it vanished near Rendlesham Forest. Colonel Halt was convinced these things were under some serious intelligent control. UFO researcher John Hansen was also backing up Colonel Halt, saying that there'd been a massive cover-up, and the radar evidence put a dent in the government's old excuse about the lighthouse. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.